Hello and welcome back to my farm. They often say that imitation is the best form of flattery, and I happen to agree. So, to start this video off, we're going to take a quick look around my farm, and I'd like you to look how the trees are laid out, where my machines are located, where I have my bushes, where I keep my animals, because I'm going to show you something really interesting in a minute. In fact, this whole video is going to be focusing on some very beautiful farms and the way that people have set them up or decorated. Now, I'm not going to show you all of the farms in detail. I'm only going to highlight certain areas that I particularly like. Now, this first farm we're looking at is mine, and you've just noticed how everything has been laid out. So, let's zoom into my building and then change to another location. So, here we go, we're at another person's farm now. Now, zooming out, notice the hive, notice the extractor, notice the nectar bushes. Look the way everything is laid out. Hey, this looks like my farm, and doesn't it look wonderful? So, oh yes, not only are people creating groups where they can talk about my videos, but they're also now starting to copy my farm, so it looks very, very similar. Isn't it awesome? Now, I happen to enjoy looking at people's farms, and as I said, this video is going to be looking at the way people have decorated certain aspects. Now, this one's a little different, or there are subtle differences. For example, I don't have the tractor, and I so wish I could have that tractor. But I don't want to spend all the money on it, I want to win it, and that would be even better. Okay, right, you've just had a quick look there. You've seen two farms that are very similar. Now let's change to the next one. Now, I think this is absolutely wonderful. It feels very romantic. You've got 4 hearts here, a nice use of nectar bushes that have died, and some nice use of the plots of land here. And the layout is actually quite wonderful. This person has put a lot of time and effort into laying out their farm, and I really do like this design. Okay, now here's a much simpler one. Here we've got a heart again, using some land, or a few plots of land, and some nice plants that go around it. Again, that's quite cute. Now, focusing on other land here. Now, if we have a look at this land and the way they've actually done it, what game does this remind you of, where you have to turn the shapes, I wonder, just so they all slot in nicely? Now, I can't wait to see how this land develops, and maybe as they expand more, we can see some different options. Now, this farm is a little special, and I actually quite like what I'm about to look at here. Okay, you've got a nice standard lamp layout there at the beginning of the driveway, and it's very simple. But as we look around, you'll notice how he's used the hedgerows to separate the machines, and that's an interesting concept. It actually gives you a nice little pattern here. But hey, what's that? Oh wow, he's actually used the plots of land to spell out his name. So it says Chantal, just like the farm's name, and I think that's pretty sweet. And I like the way that people actually do this. And we're going to see some other examples in a minute. For example, when we look at this farm, you'll notice that there's quite a few points that I find particularly attractive. For example, I like the layout of the walls. I like the way that it's just stepped in from itself, and then using the trees and the ornaments as a nice way of decorating. The same with the plots of land. And hey, look, he's even used hedgerows to spell out his name. So, Amar. Again, a pretty good concept and a really, really good idea. The time and effort that these people are putting into their farms to decorate them and make them look more interesting is actually quite enjoyable. I also like the way that he's actually segmented things, using the fences as a way to separate different trees. Gives it a nice pattern. Now, this is another nice farm that I actually quite like that uses segmentation as well. Okay, if you look at the driveway, you'll notice they're using the lampposts and some nice walling there for a good effect. But as you look around the farm, you'll notice how he's actually separated the machines. I like the way that the trees are in a nice straight line. The machines are parallel to that, and then using the actual path pattern to basically separate the machines from each other and to create a nice effect as though you're walking down the machines and sorting the machines out. And I think this is really, really good. I like the way that you can just move from one machine to the next machine, and then again coming back. Okay, now this farm was interesting as well. What I particularly like again is the way that they use the nectar bushes that have died to separate the land plots. So you'll see 3 parts here at the front that are nicely squared off. And the 4th part here still needs a little bit of work, so as this farm expands they will get some more land. And again I think that's quite good, and it gives it a really nice feel. And it looks like those bees have been really busy, because if you look here you'll see again the way that they've used the bushes to separate. Now notice as well how some of these pens are empty. I think that's an interesting concept, to actually use empty pens just to help decorate the farm and give it a more uniform feel. Now as this person increases the level they can start adding more animals. And I think in the end that will be quite nice. Okay, let's jump to the next farm. Now I like this design. I like the way that the actual pattern is separated from one side to the other, and you will get an almost nice mirror effect. Now a lot of people use angles and different items to actually give yourself a more of like a 3D feel to something. Now if you have a look at this one here, you'll notice that it seems like you've got steps on the farm, and it's almost as though that you're climbing up those steps to go from one point to another point, even though it's actually flat. So just offsetting the wall, just offsetting the decoration gives you a really, really nice style sometimes. And I will show you quite a few of these examples later on, especially when they start using buildings. Now this is another farm that's actually using the nectar bushes as a form of decoration, or as a kind of a barrier between machines. Just look at the way he's using them. Look at the brown path effect he's got as well, going from one machine to another machine. You get a really interesting design. Now when you zoom out and you look at this farm, everything seems so tidy, so well organized, and I actually kind of like that in some aspects. Okay, now this next one, I really enjoy this design. It's almost like you've got a mini graveyard at the back of the farm there, and you've got like an autumn effect to it as well. So you've got your trees here in a nice U shape that balance nicely with the wall. Now if I zoom down to the bottom part, you'll see that there's an entrance to this area just to the center there. And you end up with some bushes down at the other end. So that's like the live area, and then this area up near the back is the dead area. Using the gnomes, okay, using flowers, okay, path effect. You've got coffins. It's very, very Halloweeny, very, very autumny kind of feel. And I actually think this looks pretty sweet. Maybe when it comes to Halloween next year I might imitate this one, and you may see this design on my farm or in my town. I'm not quite sure yet what I will do, but it does look good. Right, now I'm going to jump to another farm in a second, and you're going to see again some interesting use for bushes, in this case the nectar bushes. And you've got some nectar bushes that are still alive and some that are dead. And he's actually spelling out his name. So if you turn your head slightly to the side, you've got the K, then you've got the I, then the R, then the A, and then the N. So Kieran. Now I kind of like it when people decorate their farms with their names. It really personalizes it and says like, hey, I just signed my farm. What do you think? Now, I must admit, when I see these designs, I often click the little happy face and say, I like what I'm looking at. Okay, now here's another one that I quite like. Quite often I see on many different farms how people have extended their dock area. For example, look here, you'll notice how he's used the walls and barrels and pathway to make it look a little bit longer. And again, it gives it an interesting feel. I kind of like this a lot. Now, what do I see here? I see a windmill, and that is one piece of decoration that I'm still missing that I'd love to get. So there's two items I want from my farm now. One is the tractor, and one is this beautiful windmill, and at some stage I will get it. Now, my main reason for coming here is because of the foxes. Now, I've actually seen quite a few farms where they've actually managed to collect a lot of foxes in one area and put a fence around them as though they're like a penned in, and they become like farm animals. And I think that's actually an interesting idea as well. Now, one day I think I might just make a video on how to catch these, because the process is actually quite good. Still, let's move on to a different area here. And speaking of windmills, what do I see there but two windmills at the very beginning of the farm, and two gramophones as well. Now, my friend here is very lucky, it seems. I also like the way that he set up his driveway. Trees and lampposts together gives you an interesting effect, especially considering he's got two windmills at the front there. Oh, I'm so jealous. There's even a penny farthing and a tractor. Now, the penny farthing I do have, the tractor I'm still trying to get, but one day I will have it. Right, let's now look at another one. Now, this person has actually used the gold path to spell out the year. So, 2015. And doesn't that look good? Now, you've seen people use bushes, you've seen them use hedgerows, and now you've seen them use pathways. Some of the ideas out there are pretty sweet, and I like that a lot. It's just a shame that the treasure chest is sitting there in the middle. Still, moving on. Now, earlier you saw the dock extension here. Now, here's another example. And I kind of like the effect with the trees here. Now, these trees have recently been harvested, which is why they're in full bloom. And it kind of reminds me of the spring season when we have cherry blossoms here in Japan. And that's one of my favorite times, just to sit there under the cherry trees eating a nice bento. It's wonderful. Now, we've got just a simple house here, and behind the house you have the well. I like that. But the main reason I'm at my friend's farm is because of the bees. And he has all 4 hives. He is so lucky. I'm still on 3, and I am a long way from getting all 4. So in some ways, I'm kind of jealous here. Still, one day I will get there. Now, if he has 4 hives, that means he's been doing a lot of harvesting of nectar. So I wonder how many nectar bushes he has on his farm. Does he have thousands of thousands? Is he using them for decoration? Let's have a look. Okay, well, there's his active bushes with a few dead ones there, so I think he needs some axes. And he's put them into a nice block pattern there, which is pretty good. And speaking of blocks, let's go over here. Now, I like this. It's almost as though the caterpillars are protecting the snail and the tortoise. And don't they look good there, just inside their golden walled cage? It looks quite good as well. And that's an interesting design concept. Right, now speaking of designs, I love what I'm about to show with the next few farms. Look at this pathway. They're using the angle effect here again. By using the lampposts, it's almost like they're fences going from one brick wall to another brick wall. And basically you've got a zigzag pattern for the pathway. And this is a sweet design. So Eileen, I really do like this. In fact, I like a lot of what she's actually done to her farm. There are some cool designs all over the place here. Right, now this one I think is really special because basically they're using the toilets and wells and some other things here to actually create a very interesting building design. And you'll see a lot of these kinds of buildings all laid out on many players' farms. Now, some of them, I must admit, do look ugly, but I actually do like this one. I could quite happily sit here inside at that table and relax. When I finish, come out the bottom, go across the bridge, and then straight out through the flower gate at the bottom there. It looks good. using the wells as a wall effect, okay, and then again offsetting the land plots with some bushes there gives you a nice pattern as well. In fact, this whole farm is nicely laid out, and it must have taken a long time just to set this up. You guys that actually do become very creative and start redesigning your farms, you have a lot of time on your hands, I think. Now this part here is actually my favorite. I must admit, I do like the way that this wall zigzags and the path follows it as well. You go up behind the stall and basically you're working your way up to the pagoda at the end there. And that's a really interesting design as far as I'm concerned. Mixed in with the machines there as well, gives it a really good balance. And that's probably my favorite part of this whole farm. Swimming pool behind the house as well, that's a nice touch. I think I could quite happily live here, but not so keen on too many toilets though. Now, speaking of farmhouses, okay, you've seen a simple one, you've seen a more complicated one. Now, sometimes you might see something like this. Swimming pool behind, using the pagodas as extensions to the building. It gives it a more stately home kind of effect. And I actually do enjoy this as well. Sometimes I wish we could redesign our buildings the way we want it. Maybe move the farmhouses around, set them back a little bit further or off to the side. I know I would actually enjoy having my farmhouse away from the road, up against the water's edge. Now here's another one I like. Okay, they're using the little pools of water, or ponds shall I say, some nice flowers, and also the smelters here in this design. Now quite often I feel the smelters are ugly, but actually the way this is laid out is fantastic. Okay, another building design here using toilets and fountains. Again with some of the pagodas. Again, that looks pretty good. And the centerpiece there at the bottom is the Pearl of the Sea. So that's a nice touch as well. Personally though, if I look off to the side, I kind of feel there's a little bit too much there with some of the decoration. But then again, it's down to the individual. I kind of like the way the machines are laid out. I like the pathways, I like the bushes. That's pretty good. But my favorite part is here down in the bottom. Now you've got a really interesting design here using some of the dead trees with some fires. And I like this feeling. Now just imagine that this farm was dark and you've got that effect down in the bottom. I think that would be really cool. Someday I wish we had the option to have like a night effect within the game. I think I would enjoy that a lot. Okay, single fountain there in the middle again, offset bushes and pathway. Interesting design. Now I like this one as well. You've got a single gramophone as a centerpiece here with the plots of land around the outside, and basically I can't wait to see the crops when they're grown. So strawberries there as an example, lettuce is next. It's going to be quite nice, very colourful pattern I feel. Here's another one as well, using some of the statues we get within the game. More flowers as well. More statues laid out there, and I know a lot of people moan about getting these statues, but if you did something like this with them, the design's actually quite interesting. But what I like the most about this farm is the land. Now if you turn your head sideways, so you're looking at it from left to right, you'll notice that it actually says Sari, so S-A-R-I. Now when I first looked at this I thought, oh, I don't like that, but then when I turned sideways I noticed the name and I thought, oh, okay, that's pretty good. Okay, I like the design here, very balanced as well. As you walk up the center of this farm area here, it was pretty good. Okay, jumping to my friend's farm here as well. Now he's got a lot of dead trees and he's clumped them all together. Now this is one option you have, and I've seen some really good designs where they've clumped dead bushes and live ones together. But you do have the choice. You can have them in one big bulk like this. Now the main reason I came here is because of this. Now, a lot of people at the lower levels do have a lot of land that needs to be opened and expanded. But how you actually lay that out gives your farm a nice design sometimes. Now, do you need to open up all the areas? No, you don't. Do you need to cut down all the trees and the rocks? Again, no, you don't. So you junior level people, please do think carefully about how you actually want to lay your farm out in the future. You don't have to clear all of the land pieces away. You don't have to chop down all the trees. You don't have to get rid of the dead water, because it can create a nice pattern. Now, you've seen foxes, and how about this idea? My friend here is actually collecting frogs. Now, I've never considered that as an option, but again, I think that could be quite sweet. So, little frog pen. Looking at his town, I like this design here. So you've got some benches with some tree decoration behind as well. I could quite happily sit there, watch the trains and the people come in, and just drink a nice cold glass of beer on a warm summer day. Very relaxing. Now, this is one of my favorite designs, and I noticed this around Christmas time. And if we zoom out, look at that. Now, you saw earlier my friend had dead trees. Now, this one has all live trees they bought as ornaments. Again, this one's using lots of ornaments as a way of decorating. So the Christmas presents there. Again, a very colourful pattern. Now, personally, okay, it's not my cup of tea and I wouldn't do it on my farm. But the design, the layout, okay, you guys really are creative. Look at this as an example. Look at that driveway or the walkway as you're walking up to the town hall there. That's beautiful. Using the waterfalls off to the side, using the swinging seats, a really unique and interesting design. Like I said, you guys do put a lot of time and effort into this, and I really do appreciate these images, and that's one reason why I'm sharing them, so other people can actually mimic and copy you. Now, you've seen a lot of different farms. You've seen a couple of images from some of the towns as well. Now, you guys out there in the world, okay, how are you decorating your farms? How are you actually using the trees and bushes to create an interesting pattern? Are you setting up your names? Are you using the winter decorations or the Halloween? Are you using the summer ones to make it more interesting and unique? Why not come to my Facebook page and add your images to my collection? I'd love to see them. But this, I must admit, is my favorite of every image, and I'm saving this one till last. The snake. Look at that tail. Look at that head. Isn't it absolutely beautiful? Okay, you've seen a few farms. I hope you like the designs, and please do show me yours. See y'all later. Bye-bye.